Excuse me. I'm eating a popsicle while I record this. I want to just mention this really quickly because I intend on writing a paper about American Psycho because I really like that movie, even though it's, not that good. Just kidding. I lied. It's great. I think one of the main reasons that Patrick is as insane as he is because he says to, I don't remember her name, the girl that he invites over that he's on a diet, and she's like, you don't need to lose any weight. You're so fit. And he's like, you can always be thinner, look better. And so I think he always wants to be better, right? He always wants to be the best version of himself he can be. And I think that's a yuppie thing. I think that yuppies just generally have this need to be, the best that they can possibly be. And so I think in Patrick's case, the thing that drives him towards being better or trying harder is Dorsia, the restaurant. He really, really, really wants to go to this restaurant, and it's a constant battle that he never seems to be able to get into this restaurant, this Dorsia place. It's always full, it's always available, and he can't ever really seem to say anything that'll make them change their minds. And at one point, a man even laughs at him over the phone. And I don't think that that's real. I don't think anyone ever laughed at him over the phone. I just think he sees Dorsia as some sort of, taunting figure. And that he's never good enough, and he's never good enough to eat at Dorsia, so why would he even try? I think that it's a literary tool. A literary tool isn't the right word, but that's what I have to go with. A literary tool used to portray Patrick Bateman's insanity. Because Dorsia is the one thing he cannot seem to have, and it drives him insane. He, in his mind, can do anything else. He can kill women, he can fuck women, he can kill homeless men, he can kill his own co-workers that he hates. Paul Allen, he can kill Paul Allen and get away with it. That's his dream. But even in his dream, even in this idea that he creates of himself and for himself, he can never get into Dorsia. He's always lying to people about getting into Dorsia. Whether he's telling the girl that he's going out with that they're going to Dorsia, or he's saying, oh, nobody goes to Dorsia anyway, we'll go here. Or saying, oh, I got us a spot at Dorsia, but then never bringing the girl actually to Dorsia. It's this idea that it's this thing that he's chasing, and no matter what else he seems to be able to have, this thing, this restaurant that he's not ever able to get into is taunting him from afar. Because he can't have it. Dorsia is not for Patrick Bateman. It's for yuppies that are better than him. And Patrick is a loser. We know this. He listens to virgin music. He talks about virgin shit. He talks about work and albums. He talks about murder. There's things that Patrick does in the movie that nobody reacts to. And that's because I think that they didn't happen. I think they're at a strip club or a bar, and he's ordering drinks, and the lady's like, no, we only take cash. And she turns around and starts pouring the drink, and he goes, you're a fucking ugly bitch. I want to stab you to death and play around in your blood. And she turns back around and serves him his drinks, and he's like, thank you. I don't think that that's real. I don't think what Patrick wished he said that. But he didn't. I don't think he said that. And I also think that another instance of this is when he's talking to the women at the different club. And they're like, so you're in finance. You're in mergers and I don't remember what the other word is. And she's like, so what are you in? And he's like, what are you into? And he's like, I'm mostly into murders and executions. And then she continues as if he said mergers and whatever the other word is. I don't know. I'm not in finance. Do I think he really said murders and executions? No, I do not. I think he said mergers and whatever the other thing is. But because he's an unreliable narrator, he wants to come off as cool. The same way I don't think that he ever killed Christy, the prostitute. And the same way that I don't think he killed Paul Allen. It's just these ideas that he chases. Because the main source of his madness is dorsia. I don't want to get too deep into this because I don't want to misrepresent the condition, but I think that there's a good chance that Patrick Bateman is autistic. He says in the film that he can't feel things other than greed and disgust. And I don't think that that's true. Because you see him present emotions. You see him socialize, but he's not good at socializing. He misses social cues. He, like a lot of autistic men this is a trait a lot of them seem to have, they want to be cool. A lot of autistic people want to come across as cool. They want to come across as something that they aren't. Which, autistic people can be cool, but they're not cool in the bad boy way that Patrick Bateman wants to be a bad boy. Patrick Bateman wants to kill people. Because to him, that's what being cool means. It's exerting your power over somebody else. And so Patrick... Sorry, I'm going down to town on this popsicle. It's so good. Anyway. Patrick wants to seem cool. He wants to have a lot of sex. He wants to have complete control over other people because to him, that's very masculine. And the more masculine you are, the cooler you are. And he wants that. He does all of these things to be more lively. And Patrick says in the film that he feels as though he is not human. He has all of the physical traits of a human being, but he doesn't himself not feel human. He feels like he looks human and genetically is human, and yet despite this he can only feel greed and disgust. He feels nothing else. And I don't think that that's true, because when he calls his lawyer after he kills a bunch of people allegedly, he says he's manic, he's laughing, he's sweating, he's like he clearly feels some sort of a life. And maybe this will be clearer in the book when I read it. Patrick is feeling in that moment. He's ecstatic. He feels something. And later, when his lawyer makes fun of him to his face, he's upset. He's genuinely upset. And again, we've seen Patrick say that he feels as though he can only feel greed and disgust. And I think that he feels disgust in the bathroom with the gay man who's like, "Oh, Patrick, I knew it. I've seen your hot body," or whatever he says. I think he feels disgust then. Sorry, I see a stream on my bed and I need to move it because it's freaking me out. Okay. I think that Patrick feels, to some extent, greed and disgust. I very much agree with him on that point. But after seeing him break in that scene, there is no way that he only feels greed and disgust. I think that he thinks he only feels greed and disgust. But he's whittling himself down to being inhuman again because he finds it attractive. He finds it cool. And his whole thing is about being cool, even though everyone around him thinks he's a loser. And he has friends, he just doesn't know how to socialize with them. And when he does say something that's genuinely offensive, so like there's times where he says things that are offensive, like the murders and executions thing, or the you're a fucking ugly bitch thing, and the woman doesn't respond to him. There are times where he says inappropriate things and people do react and they're like, what? Like when he quotes Ed Gein. It's not even an Ed Gein quote. I don't remember whose it is, but he misattributes it to Ed Gein. and tells about a woman's head on a stick, and he starts laughing. And his friends are like, okay, Patrick, okay. And I think it's things like that prove that he's not all there. I don't know. There's something going on with him. Do I think that Patrick Bateman is canonically autistic? No. Do I think it's an interesting point for me to research? Yes. He has a very strict routine that he follows. He has this thing that he chases because he thinks it will make him more socially acceptable and therefore more cool. Something about being a yuppie. It's about being an entrepreneur. And how are you going to be an entrepreneur if you're not constantly trying to better yourself, if you're not constantly trying to improve your product? And Patrick's product is part of his image. And so he has to come across as cool, but he tries too hard to be almost Sigma, despite the fact that he has sex all the time. I don't know, he's very interesting. He's a very interesting man. But I think that it's definitely an outlet for me to research Patrick Bateman possibly being autistic. Again, I think that he does feel more than he lets on. He gets angry very easily as well, and that's not greed or disgust, in my opinion. That's him being mad at, I don't know. He's a really shitty person, but I think that he's a shitty person probably because he's not ever been treated with any sort of proper treatment. I think that he's probably just been seen as a socially awkward loser, and socially awkward losers don't really get that attention for being autistic, especially in the 80s, which is when Patrick was 27 in 1987, so that means he was born in 1960. So if he was diagnosed as autistic, he probably would have been diagnosed as, like, the other thing. Not autistic. So I just think that it's interesting. I want to look into that more. I think it's possible. Anyway,